Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're doing well out there. So if you're watching this video, or actually before we get into the video, I want to let you know that according to the CDC, for monkeypox, now is actually not the right time to panic buy toilet paper. More news to come on that, and now let's actually get into the video. So if you're actually watching this video, you're probably a little bit worried about the ongoing sort of situation with monkeypox. What exactly is it? Can it be harmful to you and your family and your community? And we'll talk about what we know so far. And to begin, some good news. Luckily, monkeypox is actually something we know about here in the United States. Unlike the coronavirus, which was a novel sort of virus, we actually had a case, an outbreak of monkeypox in 2003 when a group of people who had pet prairie dogs actually got monkeypox from their pets. So we'll talk a little bit more about what we know so far about monkeypox and a little bit about what needs more research. So let's get into the video. So as far as the current status of monkeypox, so monkeypox as of May 21, which is a few days earlier than this recording, has shown about 90 or so confirmed cases and about 30 suspected cases around the globe. So that might not seem a lot to you, but in the grand scheme of things, monkeypox is only endemic in certain parts of Africa. So seeing all of these random cases throughout the globe in places where monkeypox doesn't normally live is what concerns a lot of medical professionals and scientists and epidemiologists. So for you, the average person in the community, it's not something that you need to panic about, even if you hear about it on the news, but something that might be concerning only because we don't know why all of these monkeypox cases are happening in different parts of the globe that don't really belong in those parts of the globe. Because monkeypox is widespread through different countries, even though there's a few cases in each country, the big concern here is how are all these cases being spread? And that again is something that we are looking out for as medical professionals, scientists, epidemiologists, and more information on that is hopefully going to come out soon. So what do we actually know so far? The first thing is that monkeypox, which has a similar name to smallpox, is actually the cousin of smallpox. So that is a good thing because we do know quite a bit about smallpox, which is a viral disease that was mostly eradicated because of vaccination. And fun fact, the smallpox vaccination is about 85% effective against monkeypox. Another thing we know about smallpox and monkeypox is that both of these viruses, because they are related, we know that they are DNA viruses. So the importance of a DNA virus is that DNA viruses in nature have a better proofreading mechanism, so when it replicates in someone's body, it isn't easily able to make mistakes or mutations, such as with COVID and RNA virus. Usually RNA viruses don't do a very good job of proofreading, and that's how you get mutations. So luckily with monkeypox, it's a DNA virus, which means that it's less likely to mutate, but again, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we don't know if there has been a mutation that has increased transmissibility, but again, that is something that we are working on to figure out what is going on. As far as symptoms go, if in case you are infected with monkeypox, which is low likelihood, but something we should watch out for, especially in our communities, some things you want to look for, initial symptoms are flu-like symptoms. So some of the main things you find are fever, fatigue, muscle ache, headache. The caveat or the unique thing about monkeypox is that with monkeypox, in addition to those flu-like symptoms, within 1 to 3 days of exposure or start of infection, you'll get this characteristic rash. So this rash doesn't just happen on one part of the body, it is something that happens throughout the body, so mainly in the face, the arms and legs or extremities, and also in the palm of your hands as well. So the importance with this, along with the other symptoms, is will help you figure out if this is monkeypox. One thing to note is that with monkeypox, once these rashes turn into blisters, the blisters will fill with fluid, and then that fluid will eventually pop and scab over, and at that point, along with the fever, those are your two indications showing that someone is actually infectious. And we'll get to that in a later part of the video. So as far as the infection course is about 6 to 14 days. At least that is what the incubation period has been known to be. Again, if there is a mutation, but that's unlikely in this situation, maybe the incubation period is shorter or longer, but that is to be determined. Mainly, you want to know that it's 6 to 14 days of infectious period. And if you do find yourself infected with monkeypox, the first thing you want to do is, besides look at the symptoms that are most common, like we just mentioned, the second thing you want to do is actually contact a healthcare provider, so that way they can give you a little bit more information as to should you quarantine, should you be wearing certain clothes to cover up the rashes until you get to the clinic or something like that. Is there any testing available, which is to be determined, and what the next steps are. So it's nothing to panic about if you do have these symptoms, but make sure you talk to your healthcare provider and figure out the next steps together. All right, moving on to transmission. So transmission is obviously a big part of how diseases spread. So understanding that is super important, right? With COVID, we knew that mostly it was spread through the air, through airborne aerosols and respiratory droplets. And that's what prompted us to do the masking and things like that. With monkeypox, it's a little bit different sort of transmission. One of the main things or ways that monkeypox is transmitted is through having close proximity with someone who's infected. So what do I mean by that? Some examples might include direct skin-to-skin contact with someone who has, those blisters, and if those blisters pop and that fluid gets into one of your open cuts or wounds that might not even be visible to you, that is one way. Another way that monkeypox can be transmitted is through having very, very close face-to-face contact where large respiratory droplets might be able to get into your mouth and respiratory tract, although that is something that might need to be more discussed and more looked into as far as how transmissible monkeypox respiratory droplets actually are, and if that warrants a mask or not. So right now, no, but we'll see what other information comes out about respiratory droplets. Anyways, back to transmission. Another way that monkeypox is transmitted is from an animal to human, specifically through indirect contact with animal fluids to a human open cut or wound, or through having an animal bite. So one thing you want to think about is contact with animals specifically from the rodent family. So fun fact again, monkeypox actually originated from rodent family that actually infected monkeys. So when this was observed, when the original virus was observed in monkeys, they called it monkeypox, but actually a reservoir for monkeypox is rodents. So rats, mice, squirrels, prairie dogs apparently, and those things of the sort. But according to the CDC, all animals could be at risk, and that's something to also think about if you do have an infected pet or something like that. So more to come on that. But as far as for transmission and spreadability wise, monkeypox can be transmitted from animal bites or from human to pet situations. So something to think about as more information comes out. And then lastly, one thing we know about monkeypox is that it's not super deadly, luckily. So with monkeypox, the infection rate is usually somewhat low and limited to endemic areas because the virus doesn't really mutate. So if you vaccinate that population, less likely to spread. So in countries in Africa. But now again, we're seeing an uptick. So we'll see what happens with infection rates, although it's still pretty low, luckily, because it's not spread via airborne like COVID. As far as mortality rates, so in an endemic area, aka an area where monkeypox is usually around, the death rate is on the lower end of 1 to 10%, and that could vary obviously between different areas and different treatment abilities and the availability of clinics and hospitals and things like that. But the main point is that it's a low mortality rate, so that is something that should hopefully ease your anxiety if you are concerned with monkeypox and like dying and things like that. So yeah, not too crazy of a mortality rate, luckily. Again, we'll be watching out for transmissibility and any sort of evolutionary changes that might actually change this data. But as of right now, monkeypox shouldn't be something you worry about as far as dying from, although it can happen in low rates. Okay, so now moving on to what actually still needs more research, and hopefully we've learned from our lessons from COVID in that maybe we shouldn't panic so much and instead do the random controlled trials or share data a little bit more so that way we know more about a disease before we implement a large community sort of mandate or things like that might not be like the best thing to do rapidly in a disease, especially that's not airborne like COVID was. So anyways, as far as more research, one thing that we can look into or look forward to more information in is the preventative steps. So besides hand hygiene and wearing proper PPE when you're dealing with an infected patient or animal, there isn't really a lot of information. I noticed that in the news there are some public health organizations thinking about masking for COVID and monkeypox, or even locking down and things like that. It might be something to look into a little bit more, although for COVID, yes, masking is definitely appropriate. For monkeypox, we need more information as to its ability to spread and transmit to other people. So that is TBD, and hopefully if there's any more updates, I will definitely make an update video here for the channel and let you know. So another thing we also want to look into is treatments and vaccines, and how well do those treatments work. Currently there's a couple of antivirals out there. Cidofovir is one, and another experimental drug that originally used to help treat smallpox might be good against monkeypox, although the human data on these products is maybe not as strong. So if more data comes out, that'd be definitely something I will look into and update on a future video. And lastly, you've probably heard in the news that US is unleashing a small stockpile of vaccines for high-risk individuals such as medical personnel or veterinarians and things like that. So I believe that vaccine is actually called Geneo or Imvamune or Imvamax or something like that. Anyways, this is a vaccine designed for smallpox and monkeypox that might get available, not to everybody on a widespread scale, but to maybe super high-risk individuals such as healthcare providers or veterinarians. But more to come on that as well, as this is the vaccine that they don't really teach everywhere. So as more data comes out, I'll definitely make a video on that if it's necessary. Alright, so as you can see, I just briefly went over some information on what we do know and don't know about monkeypox. I just want to reassure you guys that now's not the time to panic. I know that with us recently dealing with COVID, definitely any sort of new infection out there or whatever really catches our attention because we're now a little bit more aware, right? Some things you want to look out for is that this is definitely a serious medical situation, maybe not to the level where everyone should be panicking, buying toilet paper and stocking up for the end of the world, but for us to learn from, to see how is this monkeypox virus happening in communities where it shouldn't be happening, right? And then we can act on that sort of situation and go from there. So that is the scientific process that I think we should go with for this virus, right? So more to come on all this information. I don't want you to panic. Again, as more news comes out, there's probably going to be more information. I do want to caution you that there's also misinformation out there, but this is a channel that you can find good information. Also, some other websites, CDC, NIH, World Health Organization, are also good resources as well. Again, I think the best approach for this sort of situation is not to panic. Review all the symptoms that I just mentioned to see if you or someone you know fits into that category before panicking. And if you have any questions, talk to your local pharmacist or physician, because they will be the people who will be looking into this information on a day-to-day basis as more cases rise, if cases rise in the first place. So until then, thank you for watching this video. If you did make it to the end, I hope you learned something new. It would mean a lot to me if you like this video, share it, and also subscribe to the channel to learn a little bit more from other disease states, from COVID all the way to other things that I plan to feature in the future. So thanks for supporting, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or any updates below, comment below. I would love to engage with my audience as well. And also follow me on TikTok and Instagram for more information. Alright, catch you in the next video. Hope this was helpful to you.